Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and one of the newer features to come out of patch 11.1.5 is the Cooldown Manager, which is essentially Blizzard's answer to some of the more popular add-ons and even weak auras to help players track a lot more useful information on their screen and get even better customizability for their entire character layout. This is a whole new set of tools that does add a lot more functionality towards each and every one of our characters, especially when it comes to looking out for certain important ability procs, hero talent procs that many players do miss out on, giving you bars to track out many of the core components of your character, and allows you to create a little bit more of a different UI layout than ever before. But this feature is quite in-depth, and a lot of players are struggling to figure out where do they even start with the Cooldown Manager and how to even set up correctly. So I wanted to give you guys some ideas as to what you can do with the Cooldown Manager, go over the different parts, as well as some of the different layout templates that you'll be able to effortlessly import directly into your game if you're looking to upgrade your UI. But with that being said, as always, if you guys want to see more guides and updates for the patch 11.1.5 content, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So first of all, I want to go over the different parts of the Cooldown Manager, and right now I have them displayed like all the different bars. Technically they're all active right now, even though some of them aren't showing up at the moment. But I wanted to go over all of the different components that you'll be able to play around with when it comes to the actual Cooldown Manager and how to customize them, what are some of the different settings that you can utilize, and we'll also go over what kind of layouts that I could recommend you to try out in order to add some more functionality into your game. Now, first of all, if you're trying to find the Cooldown Manager, they make it pretty easy to do. You hit the options button because it has a new icon next to it. Then you go to advanced, which also has a new, and right here we can just enable them immediately to bring them up in front of us. And they look kind of nice actually. And they're fairly customizable. Like you can actually shrink the bars, change them from like let me show you. And you can basically interact with them through the edit mode screen. They basically become part of the basic UI. This is where you get all your bars, all of your unit frames, all of the different components. You can move them around as much as you want to. And there's, like I said, ton of customizability. Each bar has a lot of different columns, which you can either make them horizontal or even vertical if that's how you want to run them. So you could just have like a flat line, or maybe make it like a vertical line if that is what you want to do, and place it anywhere you want to. So you could really have these cooldowns wrap around your character in any way you really see fit. And there's also opportunity for you to make them visible in combat, or hidden completely, or always visible. So if you just wanted something that is available like during combat but disappears whenever you're, like, let's say walking around town or just leveling and turning in quests and you just want it out of the way, you can also do that as well. The main 4 bars that you'll have to kind of get used to when it comes to playing around with the Cooldown Manager is there's first of all an essential cooldown bar, which is basically all of your major combat abilities. For a Fury Warrior, this is everything that has a cooldown, but also it has your Rampage Spender. So it will glow, it will light up whenever you are full of resources in order to start spending some of those resources. So as I use abilities like Bloodthirst, you can see that go in a cooldown, Rage and Blow. You can see whenever I get a proc of it, it like lights up exactly like it would in my action bars. Whenever I'm full of rage, it tells me immediately, hey, Rampage is immediately ready for you to go. And whenever I get procs like Thunder Blast over a Thunderclap, it also lights up. So whenever I get any kind of combat procs for any of my basic abilities, they show up here and they have an immediate reaction to it. Basically, it allows you what your bar is able to do, your combat bar, but you get to move it anywhere on your screen and track it. It also has things like your cooldowns that will track them. Like if, let's say, I press Avatar, it'll actually, because I have them both kind of used together because of a talent, it'll actually tell you the duration of that cooldown before it goes on cooldown. So right now I have our Avatar for 8 more seconds, and it actually reflects perfectly with the buff that I have above. So you can track the duration of the buff while it's up, and then you can see the cooldown of the buff afterwards. So it's actually really nice in that part specifically, because it just gives you more of that information and allows you to move that information anywhere on your screen. So a single cooldown like Avatar, for example, you don't only see how long it's going to be up until it's available, but also you can see how long the duration of it is and so forth. Then we also have another bar that basically does everything that isn't combat related, which is called your utility cooldowns. This is going to be your charge, this is going to be your leap, this is going to be your stuns like Stormbolt, as well as Shockwave, this is going to be your interrupts, this is going to be things like Berserker Rage that are warrior specific, your heals, your main defenses, basically anything that would be considered utility in most cases. And they also have very similar functionality as the combat bars, but they just handle all of those other elements, and they try to put as many of them on the screen as possible to make sure that anything that you bring as a form of utility, in dungeons or raids or PvP, you can always see it and have access to it at all times. Then we also have another bar altogether that is called a tracked bars. These are going to be different for every single class, and not every class is going to have some kind of an effect that needs to be tracked by this bar. They really try to be very careful not to add too many of these into track bars specifically, because most classes have like a limited number of them. These will track some of your best and major cooldowns that are necessary for combat, whether you talk about damage, healing, defense as a tank, but they try to be very limited on them. For Fury Warrior, the only buff that you'll be able to track, because it's like core to the basic gameplay, is your Enrage. Once I can get enough resources, or if I just hit a Bloodthirst. Nope, Bloodthirst didn't work. When I Rampage, you can track my Enrage. And the main component of Fury Warrior is to try to stay enraged for as long as possible throughout an encounter. Being able to maintain near 100% uptime, actually just 100% uptime of Enrage, is part of the playstyle, part of the base gameplay. And that's what this bar is there to do, is to track some of those core, key, class, and spec abilities. So for Fury Warrior, their main mechanic is to try to stay enraged as much as possible. So Rage or Enrage is going to be something that is tracked by these bars. And the last one is, while one bar was called tracked bars, this one is just called tracked buffs. And I actually like this one a lot. This is a really helpful feature because it basically does what a lot of my current weak cores do. I'm usually trying to track some kind of like a hero spec mechanic specifically, or I'm trying to track some sort of a buff that is crucial for my gameplay, and this one does that for you. If there's no other visual buff that shows up on your character, like any kind of an ability glow or some kind of like an icon shows up on your screen, if you don't have any kind of visuals for any key rotational abilities, they all show up in the track buffs window, and that's why it's one of my favorites. Just adding this one as part of like your base UI, I think is a really good feature just by itself. This one is my favorite. Some classes are going to get more value out of this than others, but like if you play mage, this is super helpful for Frostfire. If you play rogue, this is really nice for keeping up with like the Deathstalker big capstone ability that a lot of players usually miss out on. This one is incredibly helpful as it tracks some of those buffs that many players would be on the lookout for. However, the bars themselves do have limitations on customizability. Like, you can't add abilities into this. You can't track like your trinkets. You can't just remove all of your combat rotational abilities out of the way. Like for Warrior, it'd be like, you know, Bloodthirst, your Rage and Blow, your Rampage, and just keep like your Recklessness, Avatar, Blaze, like the big buttons that have a long cooldown. You can't do that quite yet, and hopefully there'll be some more added functionality like that in the future, as they are looking to continue to develop the WoW UI and to add in additional features. However, you can move these bars in any way you see fit. You can put them anywhere on your screen, and because they actually give you a lot of the information needed for some of your major defenses and offensive abilities, it can actually let you hide some of your action bars, or instead just use only a portion of this UI in order to basically keep the same core UI that you currently have right now, but only add additional few elements so you don't have like a huge whiplash moment where you change everything about the UI. Keeping things familiar, but also with additional more information included, is another way that you can go about when it comes to customizing your UI in general. However, getting started when it comes to customizing your UI from scratch, especially when it comes to integrating this new feature, can be tough for many players out there. So I did want to give you guys a couple of different variations, or rather templates, that you can at least get yourself started with when it comes to changing up your UI and integrating some of these new features into it. And I also wanted to make it easier for you to be able to import those immediately, so you don't actually need to go and mess around with this and yourself. You could just import a code into the game directly and then get this UI immediately. Now, the actual string for the import codes is quite long, and there's no way for me to shorten it for the YouTube description section. So I will have a separate section in our Discord channel where I'll list some of these different UI templates, the one that I'm currently using, but also some of the more popular UI templates that I've seen other players use as well. And these are templates, so you can take it and then customize it to any way you see fit, but at the very least, these are templates that are designed specifically around the cooldown manager and some of the different layouts that I've seen a lot of players utilize, at least so far. Now, the first template is basically my own template. This is what I'm currently using for any of my alt characters, and this one is kind of nice. It basically takes the original general layout for my UI that I've had forever, with all the bars included, But I don't use all of the new cooldown manager bars. I don't use the essential bars. I don't use the utility bars because I still have them on my screen. I want to keep that familiarity. But track bars, I actually find very useful, so I put them down straight in center. The tracked buffs, I actually put above my enemy or my target unit frame, because that's usually where I keep my rogues weak auras, and they kind of function like my rogues weak auras, giving me a lot of functionality when it comes to combat based abilities. You can always take this and transfer them over to your character screen if that's what you prefer, but I just keep them on a target screen because that's usually what I'm looking out for any specific procs. So down below I have a bar that shows me Mungo's Bite, shows me my charges and exactly how all that functions, but I also see the buffs above my target as well, above their unit frame, and this helps me make some of those decisions regarding my rotational abilities, how I should spend Tip the Spear whenever I have kill shot procs available, and even the hero spec mechanics, like whenever I'm summoning the Wyvern or the Bear or the Boar, and how that can change the way I play my Hunter. So this one is incredibly good, but also it's very like basic to what I've been using for a while. I like my UI more centered. I like to see all of my health bars. I like to see all of my bars down the middle row. So that's more or less what this UI setup or template looks like, and that's what I usually use. Now, the next one that I've seen a lot of players use is basically try to find a way to mimic weak aura packages and kind of build them up like a pyramid down the middle of your screen. But it sits right below your character, so you can still see your character. It does hide some of those utility bars that you would have, or as many bars as possible, down below to give you more screen space to work with. The main bar with your combo abilities, you can't hide that without any add-ons, but at the very least, it does keep things out of the way and allows you to kind of keep everything more centered, but below your character, so you have an easier time seeing your environment. This was definitely better for the aesthetics, but also some added functionality because you're able to see all those cooldowns down the middle, and this also allows you to move your health bars anywhere you want to. As part of this template, this is like the weak aura light or weak aura like template. You can move your health bars towards the top left or move them closer down the middle if that's what you want to do. Bring them up anywhere you want to, but it basically tries to recreate the weak aura package, but using the systems of the cooldown manager to give you a template to work with. And this works for all the different classes, as it tracks your buffs for certain playstyles, procs, it tracks all your major defenses down the middle. So this should work for just about any single class layout, and this one is like the most universal option. Next is what I would call the condensed cooldown bars, which are more centered around your character. So instead of building like a pyramid, it has all your major combat abilities below your character, all of the utility buttons to the right of it, and the procs right above it, kind of building around your character's frame in the middle. This one takes a little bit more step towards the functionality to give you all the information on your screen when you need it, but it does start to clutter your screen just a little bit more. This one I actually find kind of useful just in terms of just practicality. Like the cooldowns and utility, I'm able to watch them a little bit more closer as I'm staring towards the very center of the screen. And with this one, you could also customize the health bars anywhere you want to, whether you want to move them out of the way or closer to the middle, and anywhere you see fit. This one also works for a variety of different class options as well. Now, the final layout is going to be basically center square, and this one is less good looking, less pretty, as it basically stacks all of your bars way down the middle. But I've seen a lot of players utilize this one specifically when it comes to functionality. So if the first weak aura like is for the looks, the visuals, to try to make things look really nice, kind of mimicking that weak aura style, this one has less of like a nice visual flair, but more of a practicality purpose for it specifically. This one also works for a variety of different classes, though the clutterness of this one is going to vary from spec to spec. Certain classes that have maybe a lot of combat-based abilities, they're going to receive that bar, or the square bar at the top. As it gets filled with more abilities, it'll basically turn into like instead of squares, it'll just kind of be combined together into this ability brick. So this one definitely does end up taking up quite a decent bit of your space down below, but at least it lets you track everything at the center. So if you're someone who has the focus down the center of your screen, all of your major abilities and all your utilities are really clustered together. So it does give a little bit more functionality, but the visuals do end up getting sacrificed a little bit. But it still looks really good and fairly clean. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys did enjoy this little update on the cooldown manager. If you did enjoy this update or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. Definitely join our Discord if you want to get some of these templates and layouts imported directly onto your character. All you have to do is find the actual code, hit right click, hit copy, and then add them into the game directly. And if for some reason you're struggling along the way, definitely feel free to reach out to me, because there's a good chance that I might be able to help out in one way or another. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, I'll see all of you in the next one.